So it turns out the coward is actually very strong, like scary strong, potentially even stronger than Tanjiro strong, which, I'm not gonna lie, even if it's predictable, I didn't expect that outcome. I figured that Zenitsu, or Zen, he would be someone that would just, like, man up. Like, when the going gets tough, he would man up and he would fight. That's what I assumed, and he would be really good. Like, those type of characters. But, turns out, that is not the case. He is a character... he might have a split personality, which, that's the thing. It's not clarified, actually, within this episode, which, let's get right into that. Let's talk about it. Zen, it's very apparent that when he got very stressed, like, when things were just about to go completely sideways and he was going to die, he got so scared, he literally passed out. Which means that just his adrenaline and all that, and he passed out. He went completely unconscious, and in that moment, he gets back up, and he just says his technique, Thunderclap, and just attacks the demon, and it instantly ends the man. Like, it is literally, there's no dialogue between it. He just says his technique, attacks the man. There is, like, no error in his fighting style. There's no delay or anything. He just took the demon out, and then he woke back up. Which makes me wonder what was going on there. Like, was it a split personality? Like, when he gets immense amount of stress, does another personality come out, and does it try to fight? Is it like a fighting personality? Or is it just a defense mechanism? Like, he reaches such an overwhelming amount of stress that his body just goes into, like, a state of shock. He goes to sleep, and just his body goes into survival mode and just protects itself. That's another way we can go about this, instead of, like, you know, a split personality. Or it's something else to where he's just a really good fighter while he sleeps. That's another thing. Like, there's many ways to take this. Either he's a good fighter while sleeping, like if he ever is asleep and you try to fight him, or you're a dangerous threat, he will attack you automatically. That's a possibility. If not that, split personality, which we didn't hear him talk, but it's a possibility that it's a split personality that just straight up wants to protect, you know, its main body. But it does show signs that it wants to protect the boy too, so it isn't a malicious personality. It's at least very aware of the boy, if it is. And if it's not that, it's just itself. Like it's like a self-defense mechanism, just wanting to preserve its host. Regardless, it's incredibly fascinating. Zen's character, I like him. He's a really good character. I like it. I love the contrast of him. Like, how he's very over-the-top, obnoxious, loud. The voice actor's very loud, and I know many were complaining about him in the last week's episode. They're like, oh, I don't like this character, I hate this character. I had to just lower my audio down just because of how annoying this character was, which I understand. I mean, characters like that are meant to annoy you. That's what the purpose of his character was. But this side of it, I think, is going to make everybody realize how good a contrast it is. To see a character like him that has this fundamental flaw turn out to be a really good powerhouse. I think something like that's definitely needed, especially looking at his skill level within this episode. Because, like I said, it's clear as day that Zen's fighting level is definitely higher than Tanjiro's. Tanjiro may probably know a lot more techniques, but at the very least, Zen is very refined. Like, when he attacks, there is no, like, error. Like, he does not delay himself. Like, you see Tanjiro, how he has a lot of mess-ups in his fighting style at the end of this episode, which I'll get into. But when you look at and compare it to Zen, Zen was just instantly, he got his sword, got in position, attacked the demon, put his sword away, and then he woke back up, which says a major difference to how Tanjiro is. So I personally believe, at this moment in time, Zen is stronger. That's what I think. I could be wrong, but that's what I assume. Still, Zen as a character, I'm starting to see why many told me to give him a chance. I never really hated him as a character to begin with. I just said that he was a coward. That doesn't mean I hate the character. A lot of cowardly characters are usually enjoyable characters for me. I love those type of characters. So, I'm really happy to see this contrast. It's very different from what I expected because, like I said, I expected him to be a character man up and start fighting and all that when he needs to. He'll have a struggle, but seeing, like, this monster that is unleashed and just start fighting, I like that. That's something I could get behind. I want more of that. So, hopefully, we get to see more of Zen. I do hope he becomes a a permanent attachment to the cast. Like, I know he is a side character slash support character, but I hope he is not like a side slash support character that is just thrown to the side and we only see every so often. I do hope that he becomes, let's say, a permanent party with Tanjiro. Now that I would be very happy about, but we'll see. Now, speaking of other characters, let's talk about the Boar. So the Boarhead dude, Demon Slayer, obviously, and from a brief little moment of him taking down a demon, he says a technique. He says self-taught, which automatically means that he was not taught by any sensei. He was never taught how to probably use the sword or any techniques. Every technique he uses, he taught himself, which puts him on a level that is very scary, which explains why he's, like an animal, like a beast, a rampaging beast, is because he's probably someone that has lived in the wilderness for a very long time and just had to survive, which is why he's learned these type of techniques, and it might drive into why he wants to fight in the first place. But regardless of that, though, he is self-taught, which goes to show his level of skill. He is a genius. He is definitely a genius when it comes to fighting, because he was able to come up with techniques that was able to instantly get rid of a demon very quickly, and you could argue maybe quicker than even Zen himself. That's just how scary it is. So the Boarhead, definitely someone that I need more of. Like, I want to know more about his character, what truly drives him, if he's really a good guy, or is he just, wanting to, take down demons or whatever. We really don't know, but he does seem to be someone that hasn't truly probably talked with a lot of people. He probably seems like very isolated. That's the type of impression I get from him, that he's an isolated type of character, and doesn't have really many friends or many people to really talk to, and that could explain why his exchange with Tanjiro in this episode was very awkward, and why he didn't really know how to interact with the child that was on the ground either, is because he just doesn't really know how to do it. And most likely he didn't become a demon slayer to really do good for the world. He probably became a demon slayer because he just wanted to get stronger or something very simplistic. I'm not saying that's bad to have a very simplistic goal, and just looking at his character, it seems because of his design and his fighting style, even if he's self-taught, he seems like a guy that just wants something very simple, maybe to get stronger, power, etc., learn techniques. Regardless, I feel like he's not going to be a very complex character, but I do think that he's going to be a very fascinating and fun to watch character to see his growth. Now, let's get into Tanjiro. So Tanjiro, his fighting style, obviously it's very flexible. I mean, we learn about that because his water form, he's able to manipulate it any way he wants. It is a very flexible fighting style that can help him in any given situation, even if he is wounded. However, regardless of fighting style, just him as an individual, he's lacking. He's definitely lacking because there is a lot of flaws in his fighting. Not the fighting style itself, like water fighting, like, his techniques, but just his fighting. He stalls a lot. As I've already pointed out, he has endurance problems, stamina. Like, his stamina isn't the best. He definitely runs out of it very quickly because he needs to be able to use his techniques in quick succession, but we've already seen what happens when he does. He gets tired and his body starts to ache, which led into a situation where he got as hurt as he did. So we know that Tanjiro needs to work on that. And also, his fear is a big thing that is also harming him in a way. He starts talking about his fear of how he doesn't want to get sliced. His wounds, because of how hurt he was, he didn't charge towards the demon, which caused more fear, which made him back up, and then it was a cycle of just more pain he was getting moving around with his body. So Tanjiro, right now, he needs to overcome his weaknesses. He definitely is injured. I'm not putting the man down for that. A normal person probably would be resting and not fighting. But right now, he's a demon slayer. He isn't someone that is necessarily full-on normal. He needs to be able to deal with these type of situations. Even if it means that he's not right in the head, he still needs to be able to deal with it if he's going to continue down this journey of trying to save Nezuko, trying to get her back to being once again a human. So Tanjiro has a major feat he needs to overcome. Right now, he needs to be able to work through the pain. Very similar to Zoro, actually, from One Piece. He needs to be able to overcome this pain, this trial, for he can fight regardless of injury. Because this kind of goes back to the roots of Demon Slayer, what it started at the beginning of the story. Is that when it comes to Demon Slayers versus demons, there's very big distinct differences. You have the demons that are able to, like, infinitely regenerate. Like, if you don't cut them with the sword and all that and get a clean kill, they can, like, keep regenerating and growing back, which means that they're nigh immortal. if you don't do it, like, a certain killing blow, they're going to keep fighting with, like, infinite stamina. As you as a human continuously fighting, one wound could just spell defeat for you. It's the end of the line. So that's the point here, is that Tanjiro needs to be able to understand that wounds are a thing that's going to happen as he continues to fight, and he needs to be able to work through it to take down the opponent. And then maybe he will be able to rest, because that's the big difference between demons and him. So anyways, Tanjiro, I do think that this is going to be a major fight for him. He's probably going to learn a lot from this fight in terms of getting better with his techniques, but also being able to kind of suppress the pain in some ways to keep fighting, which I like how pain from previous battles is carrying over. That is something I do need to mention, actually. A lot of shonen, or battle series in general, typically have characters get injured, and then they're miraculously okay, like in the next fight, or in the next chapter or episode, and I'm just like, what? That doesn't make sense. Like, you have a character that's bleeding all over the place, their arm looked like it took big blows and all that, and it's just hanging there, but then the next chapter or episode, they're A-okay. They're completely fine, they're running around like everything's okay. And I understand if there's a time skip, but usually when you see them go from one fight to the next and they're kind of A-okay, it just starts becoming a little bit ridiculous. So I am pretty happy to see that a fight that kind of happened a little bit ago is still carrying some weight for Tanjiro's current fight. That I like. I love that element to this series, because now we know the more fights that Tanjiro gets in, that burden will increase. And so I want to ask manga readers real quick, does that continue? Does that theme continue, where the more fights Tanjiro gets in, the wounds do carry over? It's not something that just disappears. Does it continue? Be honest in the comments below. I am very curious about that one. So let's get into the demon. So the demon is introduced. We get a little bit more characterization to the demon that Tanjiro is fighting. He's someone that's able to use, like, the drums on him to change the room's directions, flip it around, and even change the room they're in, which the child, the brother they were looking for, actually has control of that, thankfully. But the demon, his technique is powerful, but it isn't something that is overwhelming. Like, it isn't something that cannot be defeated. Because when you think about it, the demon only has a limited amount of drums it can hit. He has 2 hands. Unless he can form more hands, then his amount of patterns he can do is limited. It's very similar to the Marilyn fight that we had in Hunter x Hunter against Netero. There's only a limited amount of patterns you could do with a certain amount of hands, and with not that many drums at all, it's not that much. Like, he may have, let's say, 50 patterns or so, but in the grand scheme of things, it isn't that crazy. If you're able to learn and pay attention to his movements, you can easily dodge. Like I said, it comes down to endurance. And once you learn his patterns, you can easily defeat him, which is what Tanjiro was doing. He was learning the patterns of the guy he was fighting, and slowly learning what he needs to do. Like, when he reaches for a certain drum, let's say on the left, he knows the room is going to spin this certain direction. The only problem he's really having, I think, right now, is that because of the room changing, you know, sides, constantly rotating, it makes it to where it messes with your overall feeling of the battlefield. Because normally when you're fighting with a sword, you need to be able to feel like your own 2 legs are on the ground. It's very hard to fight when the ground is very not level, like when it's just flipping back and forth and all that. It's hard to fight on something like that. So that is probably the hardest part right now. It's not the fact that the room is just shifting, it's just being able to fight while the room shifts. Because he needs to be able to properly land on the ground and then attack. That's the thing about this. So, I think that it is a powerful technique, but it isn't something that is undefeatable, and I think Tanjiro will be able to get it. It's just he needs to pay attention to the attack patterns. So, is there anything else really to talk about? Let's see. I don't think so. I think I pretty much covered everything that needs to be covered. I mean, everything important. So, I'm going to wrap up this video here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, you know, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. Because for some reason, even if you click the subscribe button, you don't always get notified. So, if you want to get notified, hit that bell icon. And with that, Chibi out.